investigation too and really start diving into negative numbers is how can you use a number line to compare two numbers? All right, that's kind of what we're going to get out of this when we get to the very end. So here is a number line. All right, I want you to compare these two numbers. I want you to graph it. Okay. So 7 obviously goes where? It's to the right of 0, right? And there's -7, right? So this is kind of the important area. Anything to the right of 0, our numbers get bigger, right? As I go to the right on a number line, even here, my numbers are increasing, right? Anytime we go left on the number line, they get smaller. So even we know, like in positive numbers, 12 is bigger than 10. In negative numbers, -12 is actually smaller than -10 because it's further left on the number line. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, also that can fall in a number line are rational numbers, right? Like we know 3 3/4, right? So if this is 1, and this is 2, 3, 4. We know 3 3/4. We know 3/4 is past halfway, right? So we were to kind of guess where this point would be, probably somewhere right here, right? We know that 3 3/4 is pretty close to 4. Just like obviously where 1 3/4 are, pretty close, right? We know that 1/2 is, excuse me, is literally between halfway between 0 and 1. Now these are negatives, supposed to be negatives. -1/2 is between 0 and -1. I'll put -3 up there. There's a lot of numbers there. All right. -2 2/3. Well, we know that 2/3 is past the halfway point, right? But not too close. So it's less than 3/4. So maybe somewhere in here. You're just kind of guessing. What about -3.4? Think about where 0.4 would be on a number line. Is that bigger than 1/2 or less than 1/2? Yeah, it's less. Oh man, my headset's dinging here. This may go out on me. And -4.16. That's got to be closer to, right? Actually, that's supposed to be -4 right here. This is supposed to be -5. Okay? So you can even see where rational numbers fit on there, right? Rational numbers are also include whole numbers, integers, okay? They can also be, they're also fractions, okay? Because we can write a whole number as a fraction, right? It has to be what? A whole number over what number can be written as a fraction? Like if I write 4, how can I write the number 4 as a fraction? 4 over 1. Right. 4 over 1. All right, so we did 7 and -7 already, right? That's kind of past number. Where would 21 over 2 and -21 over 2 go? First of all, what's the value of those numbers? Yeah, this is 10.5. So that's going to be somewhere kind of out here somewhere, right? Way out here. And this is -10.5. So that's going to be way left, right? And remember, the positive number is always the bigger of the two, right? A negative number is never bigger than a positive number. Never, ever, 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 ever. Right? What about 3.5 and -3.5? Where would that go? Where would 3.5 go up here? Literally right in that line, right? Between the 3 and the 4? Good, there's 3.5. So -3.5 would be right there. All right, I'll pick a different color for those other ones. What else do they give us here? All right, so 1/2. Right? And then what was the last one? 4 3/4 and -4 3/4. Well, if this here, this line right here is the 1/2, right? Isn't 3/4 halfway between 1/2 and the whole? right? So right there, here's 4 3/4. So negative 4 3/4, would it be here or here? Which one am I erasing? Which point am I erasing? Blake?
That's closer to the -4.
Correct, this one. That doesn't belong there, right? That's the right point. Because 4 3/4 is closer to -5 than it is -4.5, right? Okay? Or I should say 4. All right. Here we go. Now you got what you. So look at your vocabulary words. Negative numbers, positive numbers, opposites. That's all stuff we've gone over. So again, rational numbers are numbers that can be expressed as one integer divided by another integer in the form a over b. It's a fraction, right? And we can express fractions as decimals. The only difference with the fraction is the denominator can never ever be 0 because we don't know what that is. We don't know what that number is. All right, and then remember absolute value. This showed up in that skills practice I gave you, right? The distance away from 0 on a number line. So -4 and 4, if we took the absolute value of both, would be the same number, right? Because they're the same distance away from 0. What if I did the absolute value of -2 and -8? Which one's closer to 0?
Excuse the interruption. Could you please send 8 to the office for a moment?
Sure.
Thank you.
-2 and -8. If you look on the number line, here's -2. There's -8. So how many units is -8 from 0? 8. What about -2? So which distance is bigger? 8 is further away from 0, right? So the absolute value of -8 is 8. The absolute value of -2 is 2. Isn't 8 bigger than 2? Okay, so that's kind of how that works. All right, so here's what I want you guys to start on. Why don't you shoot the number line? So, A through E, all right, on this number line. Now, some of these points might be a little tough to see, so you might have to estimate a few of them, like E. But I want you guys to try to find me the estimated value, and you're going to write it in this table here, and then obviously tell me what's its opposite. What's its opposite? So we're going to pause the video for a minute, and I want you guys to work on just part A, 1, 2, and 3. Then you go on to the thermometer, okay? So as part of a vertical number line on which the values are above 0, are the above 0 as positive numbers, below 0 is on the bottom, right? So we're going to use them on, you're going to put the following temperatures kind of on that thermometer somewhere, all right, as best you can. All right, so work with your group for about, we'll give you about 7 minutes, all right? We're going to pause the video. All right, so let's see how you did. So, what's the value of A? What'd you write for the estimated value? What'd you figure it to be? Huh? -7, right? So what's the opposite of -7? 7. What about B? -4. Its opposite? Good. What about C? -1.5. Good. And its opposite is? 1.5. Not half. D was 4.5. No, not negative. And its opposite is? -4.5. Now, what'd you get for E? We know it's 6. 3/4? So its opposite is -6 3/4. Because it's past halfway, and it's halfway of between halfway and 7, which could be 3/4. All right. All right, let's see how you did with this one here. Well, obviously 0's here, right? 115 is kind of like right in the middle here, right? Between 114 and 116 because it's going by 2's. -15 is kind of down here. Again, halfway between 10 and 20. So like this is 12, 14, 16. So it's like right there, right? -32.5. Yeah, it's down here somewhere, right? It was kind of off the chart, right? 40 was up here. 113.12 should be just below this number, right? Just below 115, right? kind of between these two lines. And then negative 32.7, that's going to be down just below this guy, right? So if you put them on the thermometer correctly, that's what it should look like. All right. All right, let's go to part B. So in part B, it says for each pair of temperatures, identify which temperature is further from negative 2, and then explain how you decided. Okay, so we're going to give you, this shouldn't take very long at all. We'll give you guys a couple minutes to work on this one. Which is further from negative 2? So if you need to draw a number line up above where it's next to part B and put negative 2 in there and start to kind of figure out which is which. But you're going to answer those questions and we'll check back with you just in a couple minutes, all right? All right, we're going to see how you did here. So if we're talking about going from negative 2, right? Negative 2 degrees Fahrenheit, that was kind of our target, right? So how far, 6 degrees Fahrenheit is how far from negative 2? Well, how far is 6 degrees from 0? 6, right? And then we got to go 2 more units to get to negative 2, right? So it's 8 units away, right? So how far is negative 6 degrees Fahrenheit from negative 2? Look on your number line if you need to. Look at number 6 and count up to number 2, negative 2. How far is it? Shouldn't be 8. Look at negative 6 on your number line. Count up to negative 2. It's 4 units, right? So which is closer? Which is closer? Negative 6 is closer. How many people said it was negative 6 was closer? Okay. All right, let's go to number 2. So negative 7. Or which is further? I'm sorry. So it should be 6, right? Yeah, 6 is further away, right? Further. All right. So 7 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 7. How far is negative 7 from negative 2? How many units? 5, right. Now, let's think about 3 degrees Fahrenheit. How far is 3 degrees Fahrenheit from negative 2? Well, go from 3 to 0. That's how many units? 3, and then add 2 more to get to negative 2. So who's further? They're the same distance. So for number 2, this is the same. All right, what about for number 3? 2 degrees Fahrenheit is how far from negative 3? I'm sorry, negative 2. Well, to get from 2 to 0, we go how far? Is that her again? Answer. 2. And then we go to negative 2 is, so 4 units. Okay? So negative 7 degrees Fahrenheit is how far? Well, we kind of already answered that question, didn't we? Right here? So who's furthest away? Yeah. That guy's further away. Right? All right, last but not least, number 4. All right, so negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit is how many units away from negative 2? Just think of 10 minus 2. 8, right? Yep. Now, how far is 7 degrees Fahrenheit from negative 2? So here's 7. How far do I go to get to 0? 7, right? And then I got to move 2 more over to get to negative 2, right? So that's 9. So who's further? 7 is further away from negative 2. All right, so halfway point now. All right, so think of from 0 to 10, right? That's 10 units, right? So at 10 units, what's half of 10 units? Yeah, half is 5, right? So if I'm trying to find, I can either go 5 units up from 0 or 5 units down from 10. That puts me at where? Well, how many degrees? 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So 5 degrees Fahrenheit is the halfway point. for number 1. Right? Now look at number 2. Now, before we're about where's the degree, what's the distance from negative 5 to 15? How many units? 20. What's half of 20? Right, half is 10. So now either count up from negative 5, 10 units, or down from 15, 10 units. What's the halfway point? It's 5 again. Right? Because from negative 5 to 0 is 5 units, right? From 0 to 5 is another 5 units. 5 and 5 is 10. That's the halfway point. See that? So 5 degrees Fahrenheit is halfway between 15 and negative 5. If you need to, draw it on the number line. Now, if you look at 3, number 3 is just kind of the same thing, but they just changed the negative signs, right? So from 5 to negative 15 is how many units? It's 20 again. Okay? And then half of 20 we know is 10. So if I go up 10, or I should say down, right? Because we're going from 5 to 15 is decreasing, right? So I could go down 10 units from 5 or up 10 units from negative 15. What's our halfway point? Not 5. Negative 5. Because remember, this is the top part, right? That's the highest it can go. That's the lowest it can go. So negative 5 degrees Fahrenheit is the halfway point, is the middle. Okay? And then last but not least, negative 8 to 8. Well, how many units is it from negative 8 to 8? Break it in half. How far is it from negative 8 to 0? 8, right? From 0 to 8 is 8. So 8 and 8 is 16. So it's a 16 unit total. Half is 8, right? So what's our middle point? What's right in the middle between negative 8 and 8? If we got to go either up or down 8 units to find the half. 10. 0. 0 is the halfway point. All right, everybody with me? All right, so some summary points to fill in your summary box. Okay? You can use a number line to compare where numbers are at. Consider the distance each number is away from 0. Okay? Okay, we got a few in here. How close are we to being? And remember, a set of opposites are the same distance away from 0. They just go in the opposite direction, right? Like that last one when they gave us negative 8 and 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Those are opposites, right? So the positive number and its negative they're basically opposites of each other, as long as they're the same number. If one's positive and one negative, that's opposite. And they just go in opposite directions, right? Negative numbers go to the left of 0. Positive numbers go to the right of 0. Now you see at the bottom there where it says your homework problems? It's not going to be page 20 and 21. It's only going to be page 20. And it's 9 to 15. Not those numbers there. All right, last but not least, I'm going to cover the top one just so you can get this bottom part. Absolute value is the distance away from 0 a number is. Okay? That's the number of units from 0 any number is on the number line. So that value is always going to be positive, right? Because you can't be a negative distance away. Does everybody understand that? All right. So those are your 3 summary points you got to get down. So your homework tonight is 9 to 15 on page 20. All right? And then that yellow sheet I gave you. All right? 9 to 15. So just page 20. So where it says 20 and 21, just scribble out 21. And then just cross out those numbers and write 9 to 15. Okay? I want to pause this because this guy is ready to die.